critical levels approaching, but what's next for Bitcoin?
Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, starting off with a nice clickbait statement of the morning, which we'll get into in just a bit over here, looking at good old Bitcoin price action. But before that, I would like to wish you a happy and healthy start to your Saturday morning over here from a nice and bright and sunny Helsinki, Finland. Even got a nice walk in yesterday as I start to really recover myself. Elsa's feeling good, I think herself as well. So all is well and good, I think, at least I hope. And hope is all you need from what I hear. Anyways, I will be on Twitch later today. Just need to eat a little bit of food after this video, and then it's going to be probably an all-day stream. Of course, as always, the folks there are a little bit different, but we'll be talking about some immediate price action if it does happen. Other than that, though, if there ain't no immediate price action, probably not going to be too interested in looking at charts, but we'll be hanging out there nonetheless. Anyways, other than that, what else do I want to say? Krown trading application, it's right here in front of your face. Take advantage of it. It's free. You can find it at app.krowntrader.net. I think there's a link in the description below as well, so go check that on out. And what do we see as far as the metrics here go? Well, we do see that the open interest is showing about 680 million, so we still haven't seen any sort of like major massive change of behavior there. I still want to see some sort of sustained move where it holds the open interest above at the very least 750 million, but more accurately said, perhaps 800 million, as that's really going to start to denote a major change of behavior as far as the macro goes. So I really want to see that alongside a breakage of a critical level, which we'll be talking about today, obviously. But still, that is a consideration in the back of my mind's eye. As far as all the other top-end metrics go, still pretty much steady. We saw the Bitcoin dominance go up a little bit. We can kind of reanalyze that as well today. But overall, I'm bullish on that, and I'd still remain bullish on that. We did hit our target from yesterday, short term, right around 9,100, I believe it was, a little bit below there perhaps. And now that's going to align with a lot of interest in the lower term time frames today. Looking at the fear and greed index, still taken out of 40, so the market's still more erring on the side of fearfulness, even after more than 2xing off the lows. I think that's of interest as well. And other than that, I think it's time to get into the actual price action analysis. So yesterday we left off, we were somewhere right around here. I said Bitcoin was likely to pop back up to about 9,100 when I think we were trading around 8,600-ish region. And we got that. Now Bitcoin kind of holding its own, putting another higher low on the 4-hour right here. And I do think that we're getting ready for another pop back up at the very least about 9,100, probably even 9,150. And that's going to be where things start to change around from the medium and lower term timeframes once again, because, well, just going from level to level here, as I put back on the, whoops, wrong chart. There we go. This is one that we were working off yesterday. Just going level to level here, we will have a chance to break back above this 9,200-ish region on the next move to the upside. And if we do see at the very least a 2-hour doodle closed above there, or preferably a 4-hour, although probably both of them get it at this point, I would look for extension back up to the top side of the range as far as the medium and higher term timeframes go. So again, making differences between the short term timeframes, the medium and the higher term timeframes, and now likely extrapolate a move back up here towards about 9,600-ish region. However, this happening over a weekend would be skeptical nonetheless. So I really don't like playing moves on the weekend. In fact, I just, for what it's worth, I closed down all my trading accounts for the weekend. And unless there's some like completely obvious, or if I have to manage a position that was born from the week, I typically prefer not to trade over the weekends. But if we do get a 4-hour doodle closure above, let's call it 92, well, how aggressive do you want to be here? I suppose 9,300 would be the obvious area. If we get a 4-hour doodle closing above 9,300-ish region, yes, I would look for extension all the way up to about 96, maybe even 9,700-ish region. This guy up here, which is relevant with the macro. However, for the short-term timeframes, I think that more or less we're going to be just playing out a range between where we are right now and about 9,150, 9,200-ish region, and look for that to kind of take us through the weekend, setting up for a breakage early next week, of which there are plenty of things to be aware of right now. So as long as Bitcoin just doesn't break down below this critical point right here at about 8,500-ish region we'll talk about, I do believe that this is more or less just reaccumulation. We see a nice potential ascending triangle in the making right here. We see obviously an uptrend with higher highs and higher lows, and to me that supersedes just about everything else, especially when Saturday is typically a more or less quiet day. Going over here to the 12-hour, we do see that there's actually going to be a 12-hour golden cross coming relatively soon, as long as Bitcoin especially remains above about $8,000, but even more aggressively as long as we remain above at 8,500-ish level, which defines the lower term timeframe support area. So if Bitcoin does essentially just maintain that area without breaking it catastrophically, before end of weekend. We should have a golden cross on this time frame, probably, doing some bad visualization here, probably around either tomorrow or around the daily total close. So somewhere between today's daily total close and tomorrow's daily total close, we should see an actual golden cross occur on the 12-hour. And why is that relevant? Well, do crosses even work anymore? No, of course. I'm just making a bad joke right there. But looking through the history of this, we do see some pretty good interplays with this, going back on over here to the last major $4,000 rally coming out of this base, which actually is very interesting from a 12-hour analysis standpoint, because not only do we have a similar sort of moving average setup that we had right on over here, but we also had a similar historical volatility percentile setup as well, seeing about the culmination of 2 months of contraction right here. Same thing right here. This one contracting all the way from early March to basically where we are right now in early May. This one contracting all the way from middle of December to about early February, it looks like, and then big massive move to the upside. This one about a $4,000 move as we get the golden cross and as volatility expands. Same thing right on over here. We see that the volatility is once again expanding after a massive contraction phase, and golden cross likely on the way, very, 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 very likely on the way for the 12-hour dildo time frame right around here. And if we go back in the analyst history, we do see that works, both to the upside and the downside. Death cross right here obviously was a terrible terrible entry timer, perhaps is a better word to put that. But overall, it does get the momentum pretty damn well, telling you to basically play this baby short for all the way from about 8,500 to the next major low at about 6,500. Yes, there was a run up for about $3,000 right here in between. We'll just kind of, take that one with a grain of salt. Back on over here, the last golden cross before that was in April of 2019. Don't need any introduction for that one because that was the next major move to the upside, all the way from about 4,000 to 14,000. One death cross took us all the way through 2018. Again, terrible timer, but excellent getting the momentum for the long term. And then before that, we were basically golden cross the whole way from like 2016 to 2018, it looks like. So again, this is of interest here. Of course, doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't come back down and test around the 8,500-ish level. In fact, I do think it's going to do that, but I do think that overall, as long as Bitcoin holds it coming into especially tomorrow night's closure, which is also going to be the weekly closure, I would look for that golden cross to effectively happen. And of course, I that's not to say that there's just going to be a massive green dildo party to the upside right after that happens. As you can see right here, actually after getting the golden cross, you do come back down to test around that cross. Same thing back on over here. Well, a little bit less so. We do get the golden cross pretty much the same day that there's a massive major pump. We do come back down and test around the 55 after that. And then of course, examples before that, relatively similar if you want to get into them. But as it stands right now, you can imagine that if we were to get the golden cross, the 55 is going to get brought up into the mid 8,000s probably in this next week or so. So I would still be looking at that as a nice pivot point, not just for the short term, but then it would extrapolate to the medium term, which can actually really get some good price action. As long as we remain above that, I look at that as just likely to continue the trend. Not only that, but bringing this just one step further, going to the daily and looking at the good old Bollinger Bands, which I don't use all that often, but when things are trending, I will, to kind of like judge, are we still in the process of trending? Well, obviously when you still see higher highs and higher lows, it's an uptrend, of course, but more importantly, look, using the Bollinger Bands as a nice little tool here. As long as we're closing above the top side of this Bollinger Band, which is currently at 89.26, and yesterday we did above 87.22, obviously closing at 88.32, so a good healthy amount above. I would say that we're still in the process of trending, and of course, seeing as we do have a golden cross on the way in the 12-hour, it would naturally follow that it's likely going to be similar to the daily as well. You can see that while it's going to take a little bit longer, naturally, any sort of price action that remains above, especially $8,000, the golden cross will inevitably happen, and that's when I really start to look towards a move into the deeper 5 digits. But for right now, if Saturday, or sorry, is today Saturday? Yes, today's Saturday. Today is Saturday, so if you see Saturday closure above 89.25, I'd say that that's going to be setting up Sunday for a very, 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 very nice day for at least another test back up towards what was this, Thursday's high? Yeah, I think that was Thursday's high, somewhere right around 9,500-ish region, which does correlate with that top end level. Now, let's talk a little bit more about that top end level here, because there are several points of confluence that really bring together this one right here. So first and foremost, we do see that this blue order box right here coming in back from our last major rejection, coming in late October at this, let's call it 9,600 on a closing basis, and also a big breakdown coming in from late February from that same level, of course, as well. Using a Fibonacci retracement from the ultimate high to the ultimate low of this whole cycle right here, we do see the 618 Fibonacci retracement is coming in, on the topper echelon of that, right around about 9,750, 9,800-ish region. And also, if we were to draw a trend line, diagonal trend line that is, on the log scale going from our $14,000 high to where we are right now, you will see it coincide with that region as well. And I'm sure if we maybe even put on the volume profile, there might be something of interest there. Yes, we do see, actually, hold on, let's pull it out a little bit more. Yeah, we do see a nice spike up of higher value nodes within this region. So it would denote that there's a change of behavior above there, which I do like. So we got fibs, we got formations, we got long-term order blocks, we got long-term breakdowns and breaks outs. And that to me is going to be a big area going forwards here. There's one other major thing that I want. Yes, okay, that's it. So let's also see, I believe that there's probably an interplay between some sort of trend line coming in back from our last $20,000 high to where we are right now. Maybe it's on the linear scale. Hold on. Let's put this on linear scale right now. Yes, I do watch both, and I do put actually a little bit more importance on linear scale nowadays. And yeah, the linear trend line going all the way from our $20,000 high to our $14,000 high to more recently our $10,500 high does meet down around this level again, the 618 from the last major run that we saw from 2019 to 2020 essentially. So to me, that is all a big deal within that region. And if Bitcoin does close above there, we do have major macro pictures starting to change around quite rapidly. I would look for a quick move up to 10.5, probably even 11,000, and then we'll discuss after that to kind of put a little bit of a damper on that discussion before we actually get into it. I would say obviously the 11,500 is going to be fraught with peril. That's been the last major rejections for the last 2 years, going all the way back to January 2018. We got a double top right here. It would obviously look a little bit better on a daily, but you see the same sort of thing. Then back in 2019 and again later in 2019 right here, a couple pairs of rejections. So if Bitcoin were to get back above there, that would be the time when actually Moon Boys really do have a major, massive scenario to be made for themselves. But keep in mind, we've already seen CME's closure for the weekly, and I'm curious how they closed the weekly at. The weekly closed in kind of a precarious place in a sense. I would interpret this as a rejection, or basically like a gap fill and down rejection. Major, massive, long-legged doji doodle being printed on Thursday's closure, the 29th, and then yesterday, no real follow through, but still holding the rise and bottoms there, obviously, as well, even on a wick basis. So to me, this is, while you typically look at this in traditional markets as a point, as a signal of indecision, perhaps even reversal, it's really not until we take out the low side of this, of which I put an alert in for yesterday, which you saw, which has obviously not gotten hit just yet. So as long as we are above that pivot at 84.80, which, what do you know, that's directly in line with our bottom side support on this baby, on the lower term timeframes for spot price action at that 8,500-ish level, essentially. I don't really see any threat of like a big bad move to the downside. However, if we were to get that, yes, I would look for a move down to about $8,000. So we're talking about a $500 move, likely happens relatively fast at an $8,000 price point. That's almost a 10% move overall. Pretty fucking good, if I do say so myself, as a trader. The volatility in this asset is just it always impresses me every fucking day, man. It really does. Anyways, so speaking about the weekly close for CMEs, do we have anything of particular interest here? Actually, we do. So let me go to the RSI. The RSI is very interesting to me. We have been working on this massive falling wedge on the RSI for about more than half a year now. In fact, probably coming up soon on a year, as this started basically in June 2019. We're in May of 2020 now, so we're 1 month away. So this has been baking for a very long time. And typically speaking, a falling wedge is going to be resolved to the upside. Statistically speaking, that's going to happen more often than not. And more importantly, I do put a lot more weight on formations in RSI than I do on price action, especially when it comes to wedges. I actually hate wedge formations on price action in Bitcoin land. Not true for other assets, but in Bitcoin land, yes, absolutely. So I would say that this does align with a long-term bullish view as well. And we actually are even seeing the weekly jewel kind of bounce off the area that you'd expect to see it bounce off of if we are going to be, resulting in a more bullish posturing. But does that mean that Bitcoin just green deals its way to the fucking heavens right right here, right now? No. And of course, this is where all the fucking, you know, this, what do I want to refer to these people as? The spoon people. Krown, spoon feed me now. And if you're wrong, fuck you. It's like, okay, understand that this is trading, it's a game of statistics over here. And realistically, that means that, you know, these higher term analyses, are they really relevant to today's price action? Does that mean if it doesn't happen today, it's invalid? No. For the love of fucking God, no. Jesus Christ. So the spoon people, once again, being turned away from this channel. And just understand, you know, my sort of perspective is coming from, you know, a trader, right? So I'm always gonna be looking at this from a statistical narrative. I'm never gonna, you know, be like full on moon or full on doom. That's really the antithesis of what it means to be a trader. To be a trader means to be able to change your mind and not give a fuck about, not give a fuck about actually being right. It's about making money, not about being right. And if you can make those two work together in the sense that you can allow yourself to change your mind and also change your position on top of that, the more important part perhaps, then that's where that sort of magic happens. Because naturally speaking, the game of statistics is going to be fraught with wins and going to be fraught with losses naturally. And that means that when you get into a position where everything can look good. You have all the confluences in the world. I had a damn good example earlier this week with looking at the 2-day dildo death cross. Well, does that mean it's guaranteed to play out? No, there's nothing guaranteed, but it gives a nice piece of edge to mark things off of in a standardized way to hopefully manage risk off as well, which that gave me a good trade opportunity. And then on the other side, more importantly, there's another opportunity to have on the other side. That's the beauty of understanding how to trade rather than how to understand how to analyze. And the good thing about learning how to trade is that you actually get paid for it by your own standard. Whereas if you're analysis, well, then you get YouTube money, and that's I would be fucking living in poverty if that was the truth. Anyways, Jesus Christ, man. I always shudder at like the comments that say something along the lines of Krown's just doing this for YouTube money. It's like, hey man, I would literally be at the level of poverty defined by the government if I was reliant on YouTube money, my friend. Fortunately, that's not the case. Anyways, before we get a little bit deeper into that, I do want to say that the 200 simple also outlining our bottom side support pretty damn accurately as well. So the daily for CMEs is very much relevant here. And as always, I think that is just the easiest chart to read. If we go down to the lower term timeframes, it looks more or less the same as what we see in spot price action. So I do think that Bitcoin is only going to be ranging here over the weekend. And I do think that it's probably going to pop back up once we see CMEs open up tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I would be looking for a move back up, probably somewhere back around like 9,300-ish region. That's where the next test comes in for the medium and for the medium time frames. Higher term time frames, next major test is like 9,700-ish region, give or take about $100. The short term time frames, as we spoke about on the BitMexican chart right here, pretty damn stock standard, with our bottom support kind of rising around 8,500-ish region. Our top side resistance kind of coming in around 9,150 to 9,200-ish region. So if Bitcoin even just takes out yesterday's high, that run up to about 9,100, do I think that it's really going to stop in this region right here? No, I don't. In fact, what I can do is now I can bifurcate the very low term timeframes from the also low term timeframes, which I just, usually I just collectively refer to as very low term timeframes. But what we can say right here is that if Bitcoin does close above this blue box, which is about a $50 region coming in right around about 90.50, it's just basically where yesterday's high is. Even if it just wicks above yesterday's high on most major exchanges, about 90.75, I would be looking for extension probably back up to about 9,300-ish region. That's where the medium timeframes change around and could propel another move back up if we do clear this region all the way up to the 9,600-ish region. And of course, what I would say is that if we even just take out Thursday's high, the 29th at 94.81 on Mexico, I would be looking for extension to basically 5 digits. It probably settles in somewhere around 9,800 in line with all these trend lines coming in right around here at around 97 to 9,800 region. But I do think that we get an initial spike up to 10,000, probably settle back down there, and then where the daily closes will be indicative of either continuation or consolidation back to the downside. So we'll see. But for right now, there's just not enough or there's just too many variables as it is right now. down. Realistically, it's probably not going to happen today. If it is going to happen, it probably happens like early next week or something like that. Looking at the 2-day, what do we have here? 2-day had both had a test of the 200 simple. So far, so good, and gives another actionable point here. As long as Bitcoin's above 8,400, I don't really see any major issues with this price action. If we were to lose 8,400, just even tick below it, I don't even need to really see a close below 8,400. But if we even just tick below 8,400, I'd look for a quick move down to about 8,000, or it's like 7,900 to 8,000-ish region, and then another short-term bounce right there, and then I come back and reanalysize it. Not really we can't get too ahead of ourselves from that narrative right now. Looking at momentum oscillators from a higher term time frames perspective, we do still see daily stokes to the upside, I think. Or no, they're actually coming down right now. And we are going to see them come down as long as Bitcoin's below 9350-ish region. Doesn't that area sound familiar? That is the that is the medium term area of action, at least for myself, 9300 to 9350, we'll call it. And daily RSI is not looking bad. I do think that it's probably going to get a pullback here over the next few days, but I would not say that that's bad in any way, shape, or form. It just likely aligns with more consolidation sideways, filling out the range between about 8,500 and we'll call it like 9,100-ish region for the short term. Maybe extend that to 93 for the medium term, and then obviously the long term all the way up to about 98. On a more conservative estimate. Now I did forget to go down through all the annals of this. Let's go to the 12-hour. The 12-hour is showing pressure down from a momentum oscillator perspective as long as we are below 93.27.5, as you can see on Mexico, and that will remain to the downside. Perhaps we have another test back down here to like 84.50, 8,500-ish region. That's fine, but I'm curious what it shows for the lower term timeframes, because these actually do get the weekend price action a little bit better. And here's what I'm looking for. Beautiful. Okay, the lovely interplay with this. So going to a 4-hour, we do see that the Stokes will actually cross back up to they will cross back up to the upside if Bitcoin price action can close the next 4-hour dildo or corollary above 91.35 essentially, which is basically our last prior little spike high right here. So I do feel quite confident in the short-term time frame range. If Bitcoin were to work its way back around there and close above there, I would look for extension another few $100 higher, a couple $100 higher to 93.50-ish region, and that's where this really starts to look like an ascending triangle. And then that's continuation formation as momentum oscillators turn back up again. And then I'd say very, very likely that not only would we test 9300 or 9350, we'd very likely exceed it and hit up to that next major level up here at around 9800 or 98.7 or 9700, wherever it kind of comes in at which determined by which point we kind of approach it from, of course. By the same token, if Bitcoin, like I said, if Bitcoin were to take out, Friday's low at 84.07 on Mexico, I would look for extension actually all the way down here towards the towards the upper 7,000s, actually 7,900 to 8,000 is where I'd be looking towards. I'm not really looking for that to happen right now. I think that this looks more or less orderly and looks more or less fine. I think at most we'd probably test back down to the top side of this blue box, somewhere right around 8,500-ish region, and then move from there. Let's check out the other lower term timeframes just out of curiosity. Looking at the 3-hour right here. Actually, 3-hour Stokes are already crossing back up to the upside, and they will remain to the upside as long as we're above 87.16.5. What do you know? That's kind of our rising bottoms right now. So I do think that we're going to test some upside here over the weekend. The top side of the short-term range most likely, and then see how things set in from there. And that's coming in like 9,000 to 9150-ish, 9,000 to 9,100-ish region. We'll call it. A little bit too big of a range. Perhaps we could make that a little bit lower. I think it's more like 90.50 to 9100. Yeah, not 90.50 to 9100. It's okay. I like the $50 ranges better, and I also like being able to speak English better as well. Sorry about that. I know it's fucking annoying. It annoys me too. Got a very very embarrassing stutter sometimes. Anyways, looking at the 2-hour, we will cross these Stokes back up to the upside if the next 2-hour deal will close above 88.82. That's a good one. And in hourly, they will cross down actually if we do close this next hourly below about 87.93.5. So I think that it's going to be more or less a range being constructed over the weekend. Probably test back down, short term back down to like 8,700 and to the top side somewhere right around like 90.50-ish region. And then if those specific criteria is met as we defined earlier, then I could look for extension up to about 9300-ish region, not 9350-ish region, setting up for perhaps a nice breakout to the upside to test the upper 9000s like 98 or 97, 98 early this next coming week. But for the weekend, I think that we're just going to be oscillating between basically where we are right now and the very low 9000s essentially. Historical volatility percentile, by the way, on the hourly is pretty much in single digits at a 1.2, 1.2 right there. So to me, that is pretty damn contracted. So we probably do get a short-term move today. We're very likely to fill out the range today. I do think it's just I don't really feel confident on a break of the range today. Even looking at a 30-minute right here, looking like we might get another spike down to like 8,700 or 8,750, but probably do bounce off that region and head back up a little bit above 9,000-ish region. Okay, what else do we want to talk about? Have we looked at the 3-day? We haven't really looked at the 3-day. It is going to be closing tonight. Yep, at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Not really getting too much from this chart. Yes, it is a long-legged doji as it is right now. Same sort of logic does apply. Don't really have anything to add there that I haven't already said on the 2-day, but overall okay. Let's see, we are 25 minutes into this video. How the fuck did that happen? I don't know, but let's go check out traditional markets and see what they're doing. So looking at NAS futures closing the Friday or closing Friday's daily down. We did get the down move. I did say that we were going to come back down to this 8650-ish, 8700-ish level, and now the question is, do we bounce here or not? And I do think that it is probably going to. I think it's probably going to go a little bit lower, maybe back down to about 8550-ish region, and then probably bounce there. What does that correlate with on Bitcoin, assuming that these two things are related to each other still? I'd be looking for Bitcoin to probably maybe test some upside in the week, over the weekend, and then when this opens at New York Stock Exchange open time at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time on Monday, perhaps we spike back down again and maybe set in another higher low well, I don't want to get too ahead of myself right here. But overall, am I bearish on this? I wouldn't necessarily say I'm bearish on this. I am looking for some more downside though. As I've been saying for a while, I think that the low is very likely in. I think it's very, very likely in for traditional markets, as I've been saying for like a month now, maybe a little bit longer than that. But I do think that we are in for some short-term and medium-term downside, probably next week, testing back down to like 8,400, maybe even as much as like 8,150-ish region for NAS futures. And that's going to be more or less the same for E-mini futures as well. I'll be looking for a test back down to like the low 270s or mid 260s. I think very, very likely we will find another bounce around there, perhaps another local low. If things really get crazy to the downside, I'd probably be looking for a move back down here, maybe perhaps at like 250. But overall, I do think that I do think that it's very likely that the low is in. That doesn't mean I don't think that we're going to play out some downside here. I think that next week's going to be a pullback week. But as long as we are essentially above like 245 on SPY on a daily closing basis, I'm not looking for new lows to be put in. I do think though that we are going to test some downside here, to be very, very direct though. I think we're going to at the very least test like the low 270s. Very likely even the 260 region, and then that's where I do think that big bounces could be had in the 260 region, or maybe as low as like 245. If 245 does start to get broken to the downside, that's when I do start to consider that there are going to be new lows in this one. But for right now, short term I'm bearish, medium term you could even say that I'm bearish as well. Long term, I think that the low is likely in here. We are going to see all momentum oscillators turn down at the same time. It looks like daily Stokes down, daily RSI losing the exponential, and also you could consider this rejection of the bullish control zone as well. And overall, we're kind of going into a contraction phase from the low, or sorry, we are resolving the contraction phase from the low thus far. I think this is perhaps better going to be seen on a lower term time frame. Yes, indeed it is. So overall, that's what I'd be looking for on that. I think gold kind of closed the week a little bit anemically as well, but I'm not bearish on this either. I do think that it's going to open up and try again to tap like the 1725, 1730-ish range early next week, and then we'll see if we get continuation above there. But if it does get above there and starts closing dailies above 1730, 1735, I would look for overall extension to like the 1800-ish level sometime in this next month or two. The monthly is more or less good to me. I have no reason to be bearish on this monthly. The real question is, how much downside does it play out before trying some more upside continuation? I think it could even be relevant that we've already seen it. This is still creating higher lows here as it is. Just need to see continuation. So overall, I'm still bullish on this. I've been bullish on this for a while, and I'm still looking long term, like 1800 and perhaps even beyond there. We'll get to that when we cross that bridge, if that's how the saying goes. Once again, which everyone always corrects me every time that I say that, and I still get it wrong. So it's all for naught, man. It's all for naught. I do apologize, but it's just my weird way of communicating, I suppose, sometimes. Let's go check out the Mr. Buterals and the Mrs. Litecoins of the world. Mr. Buteral looking high and mighty right here. Actually going to be in danger of getting the daily golden cross probably in the next 2 days at the very most, as long as price action remains above, especially $200. It is inevitable, and I would look for that to propel this baby all the way up to 245, 250-ish region. And a very, very easy way to kind of confirm continuation here with any sort of a move back above Thursday's high at 226.82 on what exchange is this? I think this is maybe Finex or Stamp. Any sort of move back above there, I'd look for extension to 245, 250-ish region. And as long as we're essentially just following the uptrend here, it's all good as far as I'm concerned. Very, very similar to Bitcoin in lower term timeframes, kind of trying to put in a nice little ascending triangle. It looks like, do you want to call it ascending triangle? Do you want to call it it looks like reaccumulation is what it looks like. If you want to do something very, 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 very short term like this, I'd say that's about right. As long as it holds the last low from Friday at around 206, I look at this as more or less constructive. Probably going to take another test down to like 209.5, but overall, I do think that it probably tests back up to like 215-ish region this weekend. Mrs. Litecoin, what is she doing? Same thing, a little bit more sloppy, so not really too much of interest here. Definitely one of the weaker ones in this market. So, I mean, this one actually still looks long-term bearish to me, kind of crazy. But the weekly's ugly, man. The weekly's bearish. I mean, of course, if Bitcoin moves up here, you're going to see Litecoin move up as well. But man, if Bitcoin shows any weakness, if Bitcoin breaks down even below like 8,500, this one's going to come back down pretty damn hard to the low 40s, and then perhaps even more after that, because we will actually have a weekly death cross, which I don't think I've seen on any major cryptos. Like ever on a weekly. Other than that, let's go check out the Bitcoin dominance really quick, and then I think it'll be time to send this baby off. Bitcoin dominance, I'm still massively bullish on. This is going to have a chance to close above 66.25 tomorrow for the weekly. If that does happen, I'd look for a big move up over the next few weeks, actually all the way up to like 69, because that's a good number. No, about 70%. This is a long-term descending broadening wedge, which is usually resolved to the upside, and I would look for that to result somewhere back around here to like 73.5 if those conditions are met. But so far so good. Looks very, very bullish to me. So most alts are going to get hurt versus Satoshis, probably not versus dollar if Bitcoin moves up, but if Bitcoin moves down, that's going to be doubly fucked, I guess. Anyways, go back to the short-term time frame ranges. We'll look at the expected moves chart really quick and then send you off. But this guy right here, I'd be looking at 80. Let's call it 84.50 to the downside. I want to err on the side of caution. To the upside on the very, very short term, 90.50. On the medium term, 93 would propel that next move up to about 98. But I'm curious about all those levels. To the downside, the big level is about 7,900. So if we do break below about 84.50, I would look for a move back down to about 7,900, 7,950-ish region. So let's go see what it would print over here. And inputs. Okay, cool. So top side of the range. Let's do the short term first. I am curious. Let's call it 9,100, even though technically it's more like 90.50. We'll do 90.50 actually. We'll do 90.50. For the bottom side, we can do 84.50. And that's going to get both the short term and the medium term for the bottom side, but only for the short term for the upside. And the upside probability is actually significantly more than double, actually, 37.25% versus 15.5% almost for the downside. So that's very, very interesting. But of course, that was just the very short term for the upside. Let's see what the more medium term level would be, and that's more like 9,300 and 9,350. And that shows what the fuck. Wait, that can't be right. Hold on, I'm doing. Oh, that's because I'm on future bars. Okay, cool. All right, sorry. Let's run that back. I was on future bars, not current bars. That's why there was bifurcation there. Funnily enough, if I do use current bars for the next daily total closure, the upside is still actually even more likely here. 32.74% versus 8.25% almost. So it's technically a little bit less likely, but it's in comparison to the downside more likely. To me, this says that we're most likely, we're about 60% most likely to just play out a range here. Is what I'm looking at. between like the 8,500 level and the 90.50ish level. So a supporting resistance trader is going to absolutely love this, and especially if you're playing options as well. On top of that, if we do take out the top set of this, which is very possible here, I would look for the next medium term range to get hit. That's 93. To the downside, still same area. I'm curious what this would show. 9,300, a little bit under 12% versus the same percent for the downside. So what does that mean? It means that upside still more likely, as you'd imagine when things are trending here. And if we extrapolate this one more, I'm just curious, because if we were to take out 9,300, I would look for a move to about 90, or let's call it like 97.50, because I'm saying 97 to 9,800ish region. We'll call it 97.50ish region. By the same token of the downside, I'll keep it the same, because it's just, if I move it any further down, it's not going to be very relevant. Although if we do break below 84.50, I would look for a move down to 7,900ish region. But looking at this right here, looks to me like getting above 9,800 and like really taking the next leg up today on this next daily little closure. Very unlikely. Of course, these change over time though. But what this is basically showing is that the short-term range is likely to hold here for Bitcoin. In fact, what we could even do is we could actually flip this around right here and bring this up to 85 versus 86 region, and that kind of encompasses the short-term range a little bit better, and I think that that's actually even just as relevant. Of course, you could also use Friday's spike low at 84.07, but I do think that a 4-hour little closure below, let's call it 8,500, probably does do it as well. And I look for a quick move down to, at the very least, like 8,200, probably a small bounce there, and then settle in somewhere around 7,900. That's where things get interesting once again. So with all of that said, I think it's time for me to sign on off. I'm gonna be on Twitch in just a few hours here. I just need to get some food in me, and other than that, wish you well once again. Take care, and until next time.